Good morning. This is Carol Dover, President and CEO of the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. I am incredibly grateful today to have our good Senator Scott, who will be joining us. We have our Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association members here today to discuss the significant impacts that all of you have been facing with COVID-19. Obviously, our speaker today needs no introduction. Many of you know that he was certainly served as the tourism governor for the state of Florida. And now I like to refer to him as our U.S. Senator, Tourism Senator. So with that, I want to thank you, Senator Scott, for taking time out of your schedule. We're so honored to have you to join us here today. And I will turn this over to you.
All right. Thanks, Carol. And first off, I want to thank everybody for all the jobs you've created in our state. And I just want to tell you, my heart goes out to each of you, because this has to be one of the hardest times everybody in the tourism industry has dealt with. I just couldn't have picked something worse to happen to our industry. And you are the state of Florida. I mean, you're the biggest job creators in the state, and you're having a lot of, you're having cash flow problems, I'm sure. And your employees have lost their jobs, and that breaks your heart. And so I feel sorry for what you're going through, and I will do everything I can to be helpful. If anybody needs me, 202-224-5274. We have a frequently asked question in both in English and Spanish up on our website, which is rickscott.senate.gov. If there's any question about any of these programs that you're not getting an answer, call us. We will do everything we can to get you an answer. We can't guarantee the results you want, but we can work on getting you an answer as quickly as possible. As when I think about what's going on across our state with all these job losses, I think of my poor mom, we were living in public housing. She was trying to raise 5 boys. She didn't have a job. She worked, she worked piecemeal. She took an ironing. She worked cleaning telephone booths. That's a lot like a lot of people that work in hospitality, because it depends on how many people show up that day, how much money do you make. And so it's a tough time for so many people in our state. So we passed 3 bills. The last is the CARES Act, which has a variety of provisions. The big things I wanted to make sure we help people that had lost their jobs, and to make sure it was broad from the standpoint, help people that were relying on tips and things like that. That might not normally be part of unemployment. And then on top of that, make sure we could help our small businesses survive long enough for this thing to pass, and so we can get reopened and get back to cash flow positive again. Anything and everything, any questions you have, make sure you're letting me know. I think I'm hoping that because of the social isolation, that we're going to get opened sooner than we think. I think the key is going to be, do we continue to try to get the number of new cases down? Do we make sure that we have robust testing? We need to, in my opinion, we need to have more testing for more test locations, easier to get tests for people that think they're positive. And then they know whether they need to quarantine, and know the people around them need to quarantine. And then on top of that, we need to know who has had it and they have the antibodies, so they don't have any risk. So I've been doing everything I can to help make sure at every level of government, in the private sector, we are able to get the testing ramped up as fast as we can. I think it's going to be incumbent upon all of our business community to start thinking about how do you reopen, and what are the standards going to be, and how you're going to entice people to come back. Even if government says they want to open, that they're okay with people opening up their businesses, is a customer going to show up again? And so I think it's going to require some changes in our business model, and it's probably going to change. There's going to be some different standards with regard to what people need to wear as far as protective gear. So I've suggested to everybody in the state that they figure out how they're going to get a local source for protective gear, because everybody and their brother is still going to need all this protective gear that is produced overseas. And so if we don't have a local supply of that, I think it's going to be even though people are going to get open, it's good. We're not going to be, or they're going to be said they can open if they don't have the protective gear. The other thing is that I think every industry has got to be very vocal about what the standards are going to be for when they open. Because if you don't, then if you rely on government to do it, the government might have standards that don't ever make it to where it's financially feasible for you to be in business. So the more every industry can be out there publicly and saying, look, this is what we're going to do. We don't need to have more regulation to cover this. The better, I think every industry is better off if that's what happens. So, but I have a great team. We have 9 offices in Florida. We're all working from our houses, and we will do everything we can to help anybody with any government program, and also find any information and deal with any federal agency that they need to deal with. So thanks, Kara, for organizing this. And I just want to make sure everybody knows that I will do everything I can to be helpful.
Thank you, Senator Scott. We are going to open it up now for some questions. I just want to let everyone on the phone know that we have the senator until about 12:45, so that leaves us a little less than 30 minutes. But we have collected some questions from our membership, sir, and what we have done today for the best use of time is that I'm just going to ask some of the most commonly asked questions. And the first one is, what can we do financially as a small independent business to survive for 3 months without going more into debt?
That is going to be hard. I think, I mean, there is clearly some business out there. I know there's not a lot, especially for anything related to tourism, whether it's restaurants or our hotels. And so some people are going to just have to say, I can't, if I open, I spend more money, so I can't even be open. And others are going to say, I can get some different revenues. I think, I live in Naples, and a lot of us are making sure we're trying to order as much takeout as we can just to keep our restaurants open. I think this is a very tough time because it's very difficult to have any cash flow. And then I've suggested that we have a moratorium on a lot of financial transactions like mortgages and rent and things like that for 30 to 60 days. I was not able to get that in the CARES Act, but I think that's something we need to continue to look at to just give people a breather until we can get back to a more normal life. But I think it's going to be very difficult for people to survive without figuring out how to borrow some money. Hopefully landlords are going to be more understanding. I think the biggest thing is everybody that can be understanding right now, that has the financial wherewithal to be understanding, has to try to be understanding of the people that they know are in worse financial shape. Oh, I can't hear you.
Am I here?
Oh, I can hear you now. Are you there, Carol?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Whoops,
I can hear you now.
I'm so sorry. So I know we've been working closely with Governor DeSantis's office in trying to make sure that commercial foreclosures and evictions get added in, because as you know, residentials are, but we have so many small commercial lease holders that are fearful that their lights are going to get turned off and they're going to be shut down. So we're working on that now, and any advice you can give us. But I'm going to move on here to the second question is, how is the CARES Act benefiting the hotel and lodging industry specifically?
Well, there's a variety of things in there. I think the first is, I know everybody cares about their employees, and so we try to be in there and cover as many people as we could that they could get unemployment. I disagreed with paying people more than what they would make, because I think it'll make it harder for people when they want to come back, because the employee has to deal with whatever where they make the most. So I disagree with that. But the PPP program is a program that is helpful. And so we're trying to make sure that it looks like we're going to run out of money maybe by the end of this week. So the Republicans have been trying to increase that by another $250 million. When we all work at home, you get phone calls and all your lines.
Yes, sir.
I hope the people that use the PPP program are the people that have seen their revenues down. So because it's not unlimited dollars. So we proposed to add another $250 million, and right now Schumer and Pelosi are blocking that but hopefully, if they get enough pressure from the small businesses in their states, that will change. So that's probably the biggest thing. There's a variety of other things in there, with regard to deductibility of interest expense, things like that are helpful. Refundable payroll tax credits, paid, and things like that. But I think probably the PPP is probably the biggest thing.
Yes, sir. And thank you for all of your help with the PPP. And I know we're working on phase 4 now, but I'd love to ask you, can you discuss, Florida is such a seasonal state. Can you discuss the seasonal impact relief in the CARES Act, please?
Sure. So the seasonal businesses are still eligible for loans provided, but use a different time period for calculating the amount. So we put up on our frequently asked question how that works, and then if anybody has any questions, if you just call us. But on whether it's the affiliation rules or the seasonal aspect or anything else, if you have a question, we are talking to the SBA and to Treasurer. It seems like every day to try to get them to be more clear. We're trying to do the same thing with the Federal Reserve on what the standards are going to be for their Main Street lending is. So if you have any questions on any of these things, including seasonal lending or seasonal impact, they just give us a call. But you just change the time frame.
Okay. What considerations are being discussed in the Phase 4 bill, and do you think there will be additional help for small businesses?
Well, I'm optimistic. The things that have been important to me is to help the small businesses and help the people that are lost their jobs. So I think that's where we ought to spend the dollars. As you all know, we don't have unlimited dollars in the federal government, and I'm like all of us, we all worry about the amount of federal debt we have and things like that. So we have to be fiscally responsible. So I think what we have to do is focus on the coronavirus problem. One, do everything we can, fund things that are going to help get this behind us, and make sure if it comes back, it doesn't do this to us again. So there's whether it's funding testing or whether funding vaccines or things like that, which we are. We just got to make sure that's in there. And then the other thing is just make sure we have enough money to help the people that have lost their jobs and help our small businesses stay. And so what I tell people is the easiest thing they're going to do that will get done is to add more money for the PPP. But if people have ideas of things that would help small businesses more, because my personal belief is that if you give the small businesses the opportunity and give them loans, they'll figure out the best way of spending the money, and they want to take care of their employees just like everybody else does.
Right. Well, that's a great segue into this next question, because clearly it's going to appear to be a bit self-serving for FRLA, but it's actually for all 501c6s. That the C3s got added into the Paycheck Protection Phase 3, but would you support adding 501c6s into Phase 4?
Yeah, we're working on that. I think the issue that we're going to have is I don't know if the way we'll get it done, if we can, is to deal with something with regard to making sure they can't lobby or something like that for a period of time, because people, are questioning whether, the tax dollars should be funding somebody that can lobby government. So I think that was the issue that people are dealing with.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing, Carol, the best thing people can do is come up with proposals to deal with what people are when they when people are complaining about something. What's the right response that what's the limitations that where people say, well, then that doesn't cause me a problem.
Yes, sir. That's great advice. Thank you for that. Another question that we get so many questions on literally daily is, do you think you're going to authorize the inclusion of the viral impact in the business interruption insurance?
Here's what I've said. What we want to do is figure out how do we give people coverage, but we can't bankrupt the insurance industry. And so what I've been trying to do is to try to understand how to do it in a manner that we don't just bankrupt another industry. We've got to do it in a manner that is thoughtful. But I think a lot of people have talked about it. People are receptive to it, but they've got to. What we haven't been able to figure out is how can you do it in a manner that doesn't bankrupt the insurance industry, because the insurance industry, what they say is that, well, they didn't take in premiums to cover something like this. So, you got to figure out how to do it in a manner that helps our small businesses, but doesn't bankrupt our insurance industry.
Right. Well, and then there are, like Wimbledon, there are companies who paid $2 million a year for 17 years in a row for business interruption, and then they, of course, received their checks. So there's certainly a balancing act, and what do you do about those who paid for it every year?
Yep, I agree.
We get, the system is overloaded in more ways than one, and you can only imagine how many of our members are very concerned about the fact that they have filed for their paperwork, and they have not received a check yet. So what do you hear?
That'd be scary because they're running out of money, Carol.
I know.
Right?
By Friday.
I've talked to all these small businesses, and they said we filed, we haven't heard anything. Then we know somebody over here that filed, and they already heard something. And we watch on television how they've already spent $247 million or billion, and so are they going to run out of money? And I'm not going to be part of it.
No. And that's why the bridge, what we call the 3.5, is so important. I hope that Pelosi and some of those will back off on their pet projects and allow this 3.5 to go through so we can get the additional. Did you say it's 200? It's 250.
250. Another be another $250 billion. That's what the White House has asked for right now. And I don't know if that will be their last ask, but I know that's what they're asking for right now. It's disappointing. I'll tell you, I've been up there 16 months. It's disappointing because everything is this politics. We shouldn't be using a crisis to try to implement liberal policy. We should use a crisis to try to help people that are impacted.
Correct. We agree, because we're the victims of shrapnel on the side are the ones
the victim of the politics.
Right.
It's crazy. This doesn't make sense.
Yes, sir. So, you and I have had this conversation before, and that is, what does the new norm look like when we open back up? And I'd love to hear from you, because you have such an amazing healthcare background, and I'm on so many different task force right now trying to work on this, but I'd love to hear from you. Do you recommend things like temperature taking of the staff? We've got everything from possible, plexiglass between booths. The kitchens are going to start looking like hospitals, Purell on every table. What are some things that you see that we are going to look like as an industry when we get back open again?
Here's the way I would think about it. I would think about, okay, I've got to have workers, right? So how do I make a worker comfortable that they want to work in my industry? What are they, and talk to them and say, what are you going to need? I assume the simplest thing is we're going to be taking temperatures. The next thing might be we're going to have these serology tests out and say, look, if you've had it and you have the antibodies, I'm going to make sure you're the one that's going to be out there talking to customers, right? And so I think the tests are going to be a big deal. I think temperature checks are going to be a big deal. I think we're going to be, until we know we've stopped the spread of this, because we've had other things that have spread like this, like H1N1, but we figured out how to stop it. And so I think what's going to happen is we're going to go through a period where it's going to take people a while to get comfortable to come out, and then we're going to figure out that we've stopped it, but we're going to be ready next time when this happens, because the odds are this will happen again. And so then everybody's going to say, oh, we know what to do in a pandemic. Now, I have a bill which I think will get done, is that we're going to clearly have an American stockpile made by American companies of the protective gear, the ventilators, the testing, things, and we're going to have that ready to go. So next time we're up and running quick. We don't have to, shut down our businesses because we have this all under control. As Americans, we know, hey, if you get it, you got to go quarantine yourself. Just to make sure you don't infect anybody else. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think every industry is going to struggle to figure this. How do you get them up? Get going. I think the airlines are going to have to say, how do I make you comfortable? Get on one of my planes again. Am I going to take everybody's temperature? Am I going to separate people? And until we get past this, is everybody going to wear masks? I think we're all going to be wearing masks for a while.
Yeah.
And so that's why I tell people, if you're going to open up your business, you better know where all the stuff you're going to need is coming from, and the odds that you're going to be the one that's going to get it and nobody else. If you don't create a local source, I think you're foolish. I think you've got to say to yourself, I got to take this. I can't rely on somebody else to take care of me. I'm going to figure this out here in my community. People can produce masks. They can produce protective gear. They can produce Purell. They can produce these things, and I'm not going to put myself in a position that I don't have what I need.
Yeah, I've heard you say that now several times. The local source. That's going to be something that we're going to put front and center now, because I do think that's an excellent point, and certainly a state like Florida should be able to have local sources to help us out with these commodities we're going to need. Governor, or Senator, when you were governor, you've always, as I said in the introduction, you probably bled hospitality and tourism through your veins as much or more than anybody I know. And if you could look forward, because you were always so good at being a visionary and jobs. I mean, our industry is 1.5 million jobs. That's not going to be the case now. But what do you think our hospitality industry is going to look like in the next 6 months to a year? And what recommendations can you give, even myself or all of us, on how we can help to get this state back looking normal again and up and running again?
So Peter Drucker used to have a quote that said, the best way to predict the future is to create it, which I really believe. I believe we have to say to ourselves, all right, people want to have experiences. So they want to travel. They want to see different parts. They love our beaches. They love the environment of Florida. They like our warm weather. So one, we have to have a product and we have to go sell it. We have to sell it in a manner that people want to use it. I think we have every opportunity to have every tourist. My belief is we're the best tourist location in the entire world, but we have to go market it. We have to go listen to what the consumer is saying, and then go solve their problems just constantly. But they want to it's not just Americans. People want to travel and experience different things, and they like hospitality, they like weather, they like beaches, they like experiences. So how are we going to sell them and get them to get on the road again? And so it's going to take people being creative, and it's going to take money, and we have to do. We're going to have, if we want to win, you got to invest and make those things happen. So I believe in it. If you look at something, I look at it as what's Florida's biggest opportunity right now, right? It's tourism, and it's going to be tourism tomorrow.
That's right.
And so we have to just be more aggressive than ever, because you know what? Oregon's going to do it, and Las Vegas is going to do it, and New York City is going to do it. And so if we don't do it, we're competing. There's not unlimited dollars, but we can get the lion's share of that if we're better than them.
Yes, sir. Well, thank goodness Visit Florida was reauthorized. We need more money, but at least we got the first step done, and Dana's doing a great job, and we're just happy that we have Visit Florida still up and running. Governor, here's the last question, an interesting one that came in, and we've seen it a lot on TV, but we would all be interested to hear what you think about China and them holding responsibility for the spreading of the COVID virus.
Okay, they're clearly responsible. So they were not transparent.
Senator, did we lose you?
Oh,
there he is.
Can you hear me? Okay, can you hear me?
Okay.
All right, they were not transparent.
Sir, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you. Can
you
you?
hear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you hear me now? Here, let me walk out this way, see if it's any better.
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So China was not transparent, no question about that, right? They were not transparent. They didn't.
Okay. Yes, sir.
They didn't tell us that this thing. They lied to us and said there was no human-to-human transmission. The WHO participated with them in doing this. It was clearly intentional what they did, so I think we have to understand China is not a competitor. They are not our competitor. They're our adversary, right?
Yeah.
And their non-transparency was intentional. And so we have to say to ourselves, when we buy something that's produced in China, we are helping them, one, take American jobs. Number two, steal our technology. Number three, they have over 1 million people in the prison in China just for their religion. Number four, they're trying to take away basic rights in Hong Kong and in Taiwan. And number five, they caused this pandemic. If they had been transparent, we would have been way ahead of the game here. And we wouldn't have hopefully had to shut down the economy like we did. So I hope what everybody says to themselves is one, if you're going to buy from China, you ought to really think long and hard. The other thing is, I think the other thing we have to do right now is say, we need to buy American products. If we want Americans to have the money to travel and be tourists in our state, then we need to have more American jobs. And so everything we can buy from America, rather than from any place else in the world, we should buy from America. And number two is, we have got to figure out we got to be way more productive to compete, because every country is now, there is no question, we are competing for jobs. And so we're going to, we'll continue to have a lot of people come from around the world to come and visit our great state. But the lion's share is going to be that people that have jobs and are successful in the United States. So what I would focus my time on is, how do I help Americans all over the country be more successful?
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Senator. I want to thank you again for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule to talk to our members today. And I know that you shared with me that you're about to be a grandfather again today, and we're excited about that. So please give your family our best, and we thank you for all the advice. Unless you have any closing thoughts, we would love to, just continue to hear from you on a regular basis if possible. And I'll end with this. Unfortunately for Florida, that minimum wage is going to still be on the ballot in November, and we're going to continue to fight hard to defeat it. But if there was ever a time now that amendment would be incredibly catastrophic, it would be now. So any insight that you have for us on that, I'd love to hear at some point. But know that we're working that issue, and we will continue to work that even with the virus going on.
Well, I look for, first up, my heart goes out to everybody, because I know this is a tough time. Anything I can do, make sure you reach out to me or my team. We are working on this full time, and we will do everything we can to help you become successful again. So I wish everybody the best of luck. I look forward to when we start reopening our businesses, and I know it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and we just got to make sure we're ready for the next pandemic. Have a great day. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator.